Hey guys, I want to welcome you and let you know how great it is to have you here for the Greater Purpose Podcast.
What's up? Welcome to the Greater Purpose Podcast. A little bit different today, a little bit somber, and I apologize for that, but I felt it was in our best interest and in the best interest of many other people who need to hear about what's going on with some of the devastation in western North Carolina. As you know, it was hit by Hurricane Helene, and there's been a lot of stories and a lot of false media narratives. And I've got to give credit to, I'm just going to say Fox News, because they really dove into this, and they have stayed on the ground, and they've stayed with the story. They haven't been putting out the fake news like there's nothing going on up there, there's nothing wrong. So this is going to be a two-part podcast, and I've asked Shannon Williams, who's been on here many times before now, which is not intentional. It's just kind of the way God worked it out. So his church did a collection of a donation, receiving donations to take some supplies up. And as of this past Wednesday, they went. Now, you're seeing this on Monday. We're recording it on Friday, so things could change a little bit. But I think probably at this point, probably not changing as dramatically as they were in the beginning. Yeah. I know they were changing like day to day. You were hearing something new. So wanted to touch base with Pastor Shannon here for a little bit, and then the second half is going to be Donnie Loftis. He's going to come and give us some legislative perspective. He also was up in the I'm going to call it a war zone, because that's what it sounds like from what everybody's describing. So first of all, so you received supplies and stuff at the tent revival and some other at your church as well.
We did. We collected supplies. Many churches involved, many donations, and folks the outpouring of support from the church. Yeah. The church has been the number one catalyst to support our neighbors in North Carolina. So that was an amazing thing. We took, in partnership with Greater Gaston Fellowship of Churches, there was about 5 truckloads, trailer full that was sent up there previously. Yeah. But this week, I went up and we took another load of blankets and wipes. There's stuff that you don't think about. Yeah. And so we were getting messages. They need blankets. It's getting cold. They need wipes. Some people
have frost. Again, this is on Monday, but this past weekend we would be looking back. They had frost warnings, so at least some frost warnings up there. Correct. So you got people with no power, people with
no water.
Yep. So
and so they needed wipes. They were asking for wipes. Didn't matter what kind, baby wipes, any kind of wipes that you kind of wipe yourself down with. And so we went up. We worked at Montreat. We went to Black Mountain. And we went to Swannanoa River Valley, and that place, it looked like a third world country. It was so bad, and the conditions are not. I want to say, if you listen to most of the media, they have either ignored it or downplayed it. Right. But I can say the situation is a lot worse. And if I have a chance, I really want to share exactly what we saw.
No, absolutely. And also on your Facebook page, and I guess on the church page as well, and your other social media that you have, and we'll try to put some of those links up in the comments, pictures, videos of what you actually saw. So it's not just made up, shared secondhand, third hand, fourth hand. This is directly from what you saw, what you guys experienced.
Correct.
Up there. And so
the thing that of course I saw that you were going up there, and then I saw the parking lot that you guys were cleaning and all that kind of stuff. So tell me about that. I mean,
So Montreat College is up there. It's Black Mountain. Billy Graham had his church was there.
Yeah.
And so when he wasn't traveling or ministering and preaching out in crusades or other places, they would say that's
Montreat.
Well, we walked right by. They said that's his church where he preached at. But the water that came through the mountain really tore up the school a lot. So they've sent their students home. So we went up with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and because they're asking for help. So we went up, and while we're taking supplies, we're like, we might as well go work. So there was a completely covered in gravel, and it just had washed everything into this parking lot. So we spent the morning cutting trees and cleaning it. So we got that done. And then we were able to travel down. And what was amazing about it is that every church we saw, every church I drove by had these canopies out, tables out, supplies. Mm-hmm. It was like not a place to go get resources right at every church parking lot. That's I saw.
Yeah.
And so the hands and feet of Jesus.
Amen.
I talked to people there.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is bad. The churches and the people, this is bad. This is tragic. But what they said was, we're watching God do something through this.
Right.
We're watching him bring the community together. We're watching him there was one man told me, he said, we pray for people when they come and get the free water. This church had water, and that's pretty much what they were doing. Mm-hmm. Other churches had everything.
Right.
One church had all their pews out, and it was just an entire sanctuary filled with supplies. Yeah. And I put pictures online of that. That was an amazing sight to see. But the guy said, every person that's come through, we've asked them, can we pray for you?
Right.
And he said, not one person, regardless of their beliefs, or not one person has said no. And they've actually encouraged it and have asked for it. But it is a war zone, and the need is not going to end next week or next month. These people are going to be rebuilding, and it's going to take years to rebuild.
Well, and that's one of the reasons for this impromptu podcast, was to make sure that we don't forget. We can't, not next week, not the week after, not the week after. We're back into our normal routine now here in the Piedmont area.
Yeah.
But they're not, and they're not going to be for possibly years in some cases. So, and what you said about the prayer and God's people working together, and that's another thing that I want to convey too, is that ultimately, even in devastation, that God can be and will be glorified
always.
And seeing, there's this network of people. A network of men, it's a men's podcast. There's this network of men, and I'm looking at the amazing things that these guys are doing.
Yeah.
And I've told us several of them, as many as I could, that the reason that you're seen as the godly man that you are is showing through right now. And that's not to brag on people. That's not to lift people up. That's not to put anybody on a pedestal, but it does show. This is a time when that character that we call godly character shines through.
Right.
And I'm seeing it in so many, I can't even name any names. You're here, and I appreciate you coming back again to do this. Donnie's going to be here.
There's a lot more.
There's so many. So continue to encourage the organizations, the individuals, everybody that's doing this work, because I can't go up there. I've not been able to go up there, but there are other things I've been able to do, and that's part of what we need to do, besides obviously praying continuously, encouraging these people as they're doing the things that they're doing, making the donations. Now, you said donations. You said at this point they have enough water.
They do have enough water. Yeah. They've said, please don't bring any more water right now.
Yeah. So hold on to it. Don't not get it. Just get it and hold on to it.
Yeah, don't send any water right now. This is what I'm hearing, not just in the area we went to, but everywhere. Yeah. And literally, we saw stacks and pallets of water everywhere we went. So they're like, we're good on water. Right now, I think what they need most is they probably need help organizing and sorting the stuff that has been donated.
So volunteers.
But they need volunteers right now. Yeah. So they need people to go up, and I'm getting ready to make a phone call to a guy that has a ministry up there, and I'm going to see what we can do to plan that.
Right.
But that should be next phase.
Okay.
The
So
third
volunteers.
Yeah. So third phase, they really need to rebuild. So this is going to be, we can send crews, we can send people, and in your church, your ministry, your family, whoever it is, can go up and do something, because the houses that need work, all the stuff that's damaged, it has to be poured out, and then prepped and ready, and for it to be rebuilt and redone. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for this in the future. So we're going to be, I know we're planning those trips, and we're going to be going up to actually put, hands on the stuff, because see, right now, while I was up there, they brought in the heavy equipment, and they're going all along that river valley. And a man came up. He was on security for a school that the river runs right by their school, and he was telling us that he said they blocked the road right when we got there. They found a body it was 100 yards from us, and so what they're doing is they've identified 7,000 hotspots in the region. Now exactly how and what signs, that's what the man told me. I know they got cadaver dogs, and they got other means. They're using satellites and all kind of other things. He said they are checking every one of those 7,000 spots. So the facts are, they have no idea how many people have been taken by this storm. And we won't know for a long time. But it is not 200. What they've been saying.
Exactly.
It is not 200. I can say that. The man told me, he said that number, he said, we've got more than that just in this community. He said, that's not counting all the rest of the counties that were affected heavily.
So not, I can't help but get political, because that's what they're doing. So if you want to get political about it, you're hearing this term misinformation.
Right.
Well, guess where that misinformation is coming from? Unfortunately, it's coming from the people that we are supposed to be trusting, relying on, that are supposed to be helping in this situation. But instead, they're worried about the optics.
Yes.
They're worried about the storyline. They're not worried about the people. And so, that's just a political statement. I guess it is. I don't know. Maybe it isn't, but
that's a factual statement.
Yeah, well, and that's the truth. There are still people hurting. There are many bodies missing. A couple students of mine, they found the dad's body on Wednesday while I was there doing classes.
Wow.
And so it's just, you just don't know. So don't listen. I'm going to tell you right now, get away from the mainstream media. Get away from all of it. If they're censoring something and telling you something's misinformation, that's what you need to listen to, because that's probably more of the truth than what they're trying to share.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So I'm not even going to give the names because I don't want to give them any credit, but
sure.
you know all the mainstream media places. Stay away from them. Turn them off. Don't even turn them on. There's no reason to turn them on. I gave a shout out to Fox News because they've been doing a lot of really good stuff lately. And it sounds like they're more back on the people's side like they were in the beginning of their years, and in the last, few years, maybe not so much, but they have been interviewing people on the ground, day after day after day after day. So they are getting the story out the best that they can. So if you want to listen to a mainstream, go to Fox News. I'm just going to give that plug but on Facebook, the people that are actually going up there on TikTok, on other social media, you guys are posting stuff. That's the stuff you want.
That's the reason why we need independent people. I don't know what you want to call them, digital creators, influencers. It doesn't matter to me. But these people that are reporting, I went up and I was so shocked by what I saw with my own eyes. I said, I have to try my best to show these people what's going on. I was up there Wednesday. The ground is still wet. There was so much mud that was layered on. There's still wet mud, and it looks like a huge swath of area where there is devastation. Trees are pushed over, cars are flipped upside down and crushed, houses are flipped and ripped apart, and this area is it's still going to be affected. And one of the locals told me, please don't forget about us when it goes off the news cycle.
Right.
And they said, we know it's going to go off the news cycle in about a week.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the problem.
Mm.
What is in front of our faces can be a concern. When people stop showing it and talking about it, then people are like, well, I guess it's not a problem anymore.
Mm.
But the government is not helping our people.
Yeah.
The government is not showing up for the people of North Carolina. So North Carolina, like, I was tempted the other day to just get up and make this huge thing of we'll stop paying North Carolinians should stop paying any tax.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
Stop paying it.
Yeah.
If you can help it, stop paying it until they take care of every North Carolinian that's been displaced or hurt or whatever their scenario is. It's a shame what is happening in this country, that we think we have politicians who would take this moment, politicize it like it's a game, and then send money to Lebanon.
No, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Another $165 million. And then they're over here saying, we have no more money. FEMA has no more money.
Yeah, right.
You know what? If you can print it for Lebanon, print some of that money and send it to our people.
Yeah.
Stop sending money over. And if you think this is political and we're not supposed to talk about it, that's how we got into the situation in the first place.
Right. We're not
the church sitting silent, the church not saying anything, and old pastors have to be careful. Why?
No, we don't.
Every man of God in the Bible stood up and proclaimed to a nation into kings.
Yep, exactly.
And
they were very political.
That's exactly.
Yeah. You can run down the list of all of your favorites in the Bible.
That's right.
They were political.
Micaiah, Isaiah,
every single one of them.
Jeremiah, all of the major and minor prophets. That's right.
Look at all of them. David,
Elijah,
all of them.
Great men of God. They have John the Baptist. Well, do you think John the Baptist had his head cut off because he was politically correct?
Right. Exactly.
No, absolutely not.
Totally not.
So it is. I think it's our job, and I thank God for your podcast and what you're doing. You're not just sitting around saying, "Oh, this is a bad situation. Oh man, I can't really do anything." But
let's do something about it.
Let's, praying is awesome.
Yeah.
But praying with action is it's like a weapon. To help and to destroy the works of the enemy. Empty prayers don't help anybody.
Right.
And so we got faith without works is dead, the Bible says in the book of James. So we got to put our works with our faith. Now, I know salvation doesn't involve works.
No,
but your life afterwards, there should be a sign and a wonder, and there should be something following you. And that it shows evidence. Hey, I do love God, and I do love my neighbor as myself.
I heard a good one this morning from a preacher on the radio. It's easy to become a disciple of God, of Christ, but it's not easy to be a disciple of Christ.
I like that.
So salvation is free.
Correct.
Repentance, forgiveness, ask forgiveness, accept Him in your heart. That's the easiest part of it.
Yeah.
The hard part is afterward. You've got to put your feet to the path. You got to put your nose to the grindstone, as they say, and you've got to show what God's doing in you. That's what our main podcast is always about, is putting our faith in action. So yes, pray, and then do something.
This is why I believe it's really important to be a part of a church.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if you have a church, then you have a pool of people, a pool of resources, and people that are out there saying they just float by themselves.
Right.
I live my life. I'm a Christian at home. I'm whatever. And you're like, I don't have a way to get supplies up there. I don't have a way to do that. And maybe you don't.
Yeah.
But if you are part of a congregation and a part of a body, then you might be one part of that big body that is working together to actually help things get done. So, hey, get off the couch and go serve the Lord with other people, because Hebrews 10:25 tells us, stop forsaking it. Yeah. Stop letting it be something that you just let go. Embrace it. And because we know the days are getting crazy. And if we're ever going to serve God, like today's the days that we got to forge ahead and say we're servants of God no matter what.
Well, and I even saw some elderly people, some of them disabled, that would get out of their car and they get their walker and they go around and they flip the trunk up, and then the workers come and unload the.
That's right. Every person can do something. That's the point. If you know how to bake a cake.
Hey, that's a good.
You know what? Listen,
that'd be good.
I was up there.
I saw somebody do that. They sent a bunch of
I mean, can you imagine what it's like? Okay, so there's people up there working.
Yeah,
they're hungry. Yeah. And what I saw, this one man, I want to give a shout out to.
Do it.
Penhall.
Okay.
Penhall. They're a demolition company.
Okay.
They work in concrete and all this stuff. And I pulled up to a gas station. I took a picture of the gas station. It looked like a refugee station.
Oh.
There was clothes, supplies everywhere. We put some of our supplies there. But he's got these trailers, 2 of them, that you can cook food on and prepare food. And they do it for their company.
Okay.
So if they got a crew working, they'll bring this trailer up, and instead of their workers leaving the job site and all that, they make lunch for them. It's part of the job.
That's cool.
And so he said, we're up here working.
Wow.
He said, then the storm hit, and my guys are sitting there going, we want to help.
Let's do something.
So he called the company. They sent both of those food trailers up, wow. And they're over there cooking. They had hamburgers, they had fries, and they were putting them in boxes, and people would come up to and they were handing them.
Wow.
Who they offered us some. They were like, y'all are here dropping off supplies. Here, eat lunch,
wow.
You know? And so they're like handing, and so they need food. They need, the workers need to be replenished.
What about coolers and stuff like that? Do they need coolers? And I know they need generators. They still need generators.
They need generators. Water. As far, they need stuff for like showers. They need mobile shower units, stuff like that.
Yeah,
like to clean
bottled
that kind of water. They got enough bottled water now.
I mean, like the gallons to do some stuff with the gallons or whatever.
Yeah. The like hot showers, stuff like that. People, they just the people who are volunteering, they need support.
Gotcha. Right.
So even if you're like, hey, I can't volunteer like that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can support the volunteers.
So is there a place to drive up to right now that is a good, I saw something about Marion being what's a place where you go and everything gathers together? Anyway.
Like a distribution center?
Yeah, sort of like that. Yeah. So are there any other places that you know of that are offhand that would be a good place to somebody say, let's say somebody can't physically do that, but they can go to the Walmart or whatever and have the place the online order, and then the Walmart guy brings it out, puts it in the truck, and he can drive it up there. That kind.
A lot of the churches have become those.
Okay, so just drop them off at the churches. Yeah,
I would call the churches.
Yeah,
I would call, whatever area you want to support. Swannanoa, Marion, if you want to go up Black Mountain, if you want to go further into maybe towards Asheville, I would call the local churches, because FEMA is actually confiscating any donation. Like if you take it to like a high school where they've set up, it's like a secular distribution, but the church, they can't touch the churches.
So they can. That's right. That's good to know.
So they cannot go to a church and say, we're going to confiscate your supplies. They can't do that. So
it's not a government entity.
Correct. So we are
on the churches.
We're pushing everything to the churches, and almost every church that we passed literally had something they were giving away.
Wow.
And even businesses.
Yeah.
So it's just and they share.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, we
ran out of something.
We got too many of these, but the church across the street, let's give them some of that so they can give it away. And it's the body of Christ is been reaching out to these folks, and the body of Christ is actually we're showing what we're made of right now.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot more people that could be involved that aren't.
Right.
I think it's a small percentage of the churches and the believers that are doing it, and a lot of people are watching it on their screens and on their phones.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage everybody to do something.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, just like we talk about on the greater purpose, there's something you can do. There is something. There are multiple things you can do.
We're not here by accident, are we?
Exactly. So
God's put purpose in us.
Absolutely. So do it. So that means, is Finish Line still taking donations in?
We are.
Ongoing?
Wednesday night we came back. I was there that Wednesday. We came back that Wednesday night offering. I said everything we take up today in our Wednesday night offering, we're putting in it. We took up $3,700 that day. what we're doing is we're going to buy supplies, nails, screws, wood, sheetrock, whatever it is, and we're going to target somebody's house. We're going to go up. We want to help rebuild and put their house back together. So that's something that we're going to do. And I mean, if you want to participate in that, people are messaging me and they're saying, how can we give? Go to our site, flcconline.com, go to the giving tab, and we got WNC. You can put it in there. All that money is going to be sent and work's going to be done up there. But it's not just us. There's a lot of other people who are actively working in churches. Yes. Harvest Church in Mount Holly, they're taking loads up like every couple of days. They're taking loads up. So they're collecting and taking loads.
Yeah. Life Church was Michael Owens and Jason Collins, and our church has and will continue to as well. So stay in touch with the churches. Stay active on social media and follow what they're asking for, because like Jason did a complete change on the supplies part. He said, we've done what we needed to do there. Now this is what we need to do. And it was coats and stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah. So, stay up on social media, follow the posts,
follow the people who are actually doing stuff.
Right. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If they're just up there and they're not taking supplies, they're not working, they're just up there sightseeing and recording.
Yeah.
You know, that's not helping anybody.
Yeah. Well, and even in legislatures, like I said, Donnie's going to be here. He'll give us some more info on that. But John Torbett has been continuously posting. He got slammed the other day for some stuff because he's posting the truth.
Wow.
And and people don't want to hear the truth. Well, he's coming from a government perspective. There's absolutely no reason for him to post anything differently. But about finding still searching for the bodies and stuff like that. So,
they're still in search and rescue mode.
Yeah.
And they will be for a while. There was a man who got really upset with me online the other day and just, he tore into me. I can't believe you're sharing that they're still finding bodies.
And they are.
Well, they found
the day you were there.
The day I was there
was the day they found.
They found one, and what they were doing. The reason why the guy came over and told us you might want to just maybe kind of leave this area right here, because they're bringing in the heavy equipment, is because they were crossing the road after that one. That was the last part. And they were crossing the road, and they were going to start hitting the hot spots on that side.
Yeah.
Now, 7,000 hot spots, it's going to take a while.
Right. Yeah.
And so he said, this is not going to be pretty. It's not going to be fun. And this is the local who is in on everything. He says, he used to be law enforcement, but now he went into private security. He said, but he is getting firsthand information from the authorities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what you need to do. Stay in touch with the outlets, the social media, whatever, that are giving you the truth.
That's right.
That are not sugarcoating, that are not filling up C-20s full of food and then not delivering them. The video you showed me before.
Yes.
I mean, there's crazy things going out there for optics, for visuals, for political gain. And that's, if you know the right people to trust, you'll know that that's not what they're doing. They're doing this for the good of the people out there. So, all right. Anything else you want to wrap it up with, or anything you want to share before we...
Listen, you know what? Don't just pray. Do something.
Do something.
Do something. And, if you don't have a church home or a church family, go find one. Get plugged in. No, nobody up there is asking. Nobody asked me, what denomination are you?
Right.
Nobody. Nobody said, oh, you got supplies for us?
Yeah.
Well, we got to make
sure. You're not Baptist. We don't want that water.
We got to make sure that we don't. So that was very interesting.
Yeah.
That nobody cared. And
that's awesome.
Actually the man said that. He said it. Different beliefs and different people are unifying now, and that's what God's doing. God's doing something new and different.
Yep.
God is the only one that can take a tragedy and turn it into a triumph.
Mm-hmm.
That can take a problem and turn it into a praise. That can take a mess and turn it into a message.
Mm-hmm.
And so He's the only one. Romans 8:28.
Take a test and turn it into a testimony.
Amen. Praise God.
So listen, don't go anywhere. We're going to have the second part of this with Donnie Loftis. He's going to give us a legislative update on what he can share from his perspective. Thank you, Pastor Shannon Williams. Appreciate you on here for the fourth or fifth time. Our regular guest. He's my co-host here. My co-host, Shannon Williams.
I love it.
All right, but stay around. Don't go away. Thanks. Welcome to the second part of the Greater Purpose Podcast, special edition. Today we're talking about the Hurricane Helene and the devastation up there, and getting some information that's going to be helpful about some things that we can do. Also, information about what's going on up there, that kind of thing. So we've asked, as we said in the previous segment, Honorable Donnie Loftis to be here. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming back. You've been here for a regular podcast. Well, I don't know if any of ours are regular, but anyway, you've been here for the regular Greater Purpose Podcast. But today we're here for a little bit of a different reason. Now we're recording this on Friday, so some things could change over Saturday, Sunday, but we'll be posted on Monday, so it's going to be fairly quick. So we just wanted to get you in here to get some. Saw that you've been up there. You've seen some of the area. I don't know if you've been back again. I know you were up there last weekend. And then legislatively speaking, of course, and then of course any of the fundraising or supply relief stuff. We want to kind of get some. So first of all, you went up there last weekend, right?
Last Thursday.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thursday.
Yeah, had a chance to. And if you'll go to his Facebook page, you'll see some of the videos and pictures.
Yep.
So were you shocked, surprised? Was it kind of what you expected, or how did that?
Well, my former career being a member of the North Carolina National Guard, I have about 15 state duty deployments for hurricanes, snowstorms, forest fires, communities without water. Mm-hmm. So I was already reasonably prepared for the amount of destruction. Plus,
you've seen it.
Living here in 1989 when Hurricane Hugo came through, that was severe. We weren't supposed to get a hurricane this far inland.
Yeah.
So surviving that, living through that, gave me some idea what to expect.
Yep.
But for the average person, there's nothing you can do with water that's just pushing everything down the side of a mountain. And those mountains actually acted as funnels to push water into the lowest point where everybody lives.
Right.
And the amount of mud that was still there, it's that clay slime that takes months to dry out.
Yeah.
And even today, it's Friday, 2 weeks ago, we haven't had any substantial rain there. It's been a few showers.
Yeah.
But when it rains, this will begin another process of all that mud will now be active again.
Yeah.
I look for there to be some emotional distress from people who survive being pushed out of their homes or in a river or in a creek. It will be emotionally for them. So what I kind of expected was actually there. It really looked like everything just took your hand and just swiped it off the map.
Yeah, right. Sort of like in a movie when you see a slide of maybe a volcanic slide or something where everything just kind of just mows everything.
And down east, those folks who live, let's say, east of I-95, they have reasonable history of hurricanes, flooding, disasters, those type of things. So they know the water is just sitting there until it slowly recedes.
Yeah.
In the mountains, the last time they've had this severe flood was 1916.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably nobody living that survived that one.
Yeah.
So they don't have the memory of here's how long it takes the Emergency Management, National Guard, FEMA to start all this process.
Yeah,
and that's where the frustration set in is where are you?
Yeah.
Why have you not been here already?
Yeah.
So that was the part that I'd like to talk about a little more of understanding the difference between down east. They've had those pretty current.
They're ready to go. Yeah,
yes.
They know.
So in my guard career, we used to bring people in when we had hurricanes down east. They used to work their regular job all day. We'd bring them in the armory at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. We'd pack them up and we'd send them out in the middle of the night. And we found out that caused wrecks or that caused less than positive results in getting where you needed to be, especially during Hurricane Floyd. All the water, I had soldiers call me in Gastonia saying, I can't go any further. It's flooded.
Mm-hmm.
So then we had to backtrack. Okay, go this route, go that route. It's still flooded. So now there's the mindset that we bring those soldiers in, we bed them down for the night. We're able to develop their mission, where they're going, what supplies they need, everything they need so that they start out the next morning early in daylight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another process that leaves folks on their own for a good 24 hours.
Sure.
So at the same time, years ago, we used to not do that as the National Guard, and I'm not speaking on their behalf, but being a member of the State Active Duty Coordinator for the Engineer Battalion, we move people advance into those projected areas now so that they can call back, get information back. Here's what to bring. Here's what not to bring. Mm-hmm. So we don't waste efforts and time in hauling stuff we won't need.
Right.
So we had those teams advanced on the ground, but the amount of water devastation, because it had already been raining 3 or 4 days before the hurricane came in. So the ground was pretty much saturated. So when the winds came and all the extra rain, it just inundated everything. So the Guard takes a while to get there. Same way with emergency management. They had boots on the ground early. However, you got to get the assets in there to begin with.
Okay.
And then the FEMA folks I know they were there early too with certain groups of people. It just takes a lot of time to get those people on site. And what I saw firsthand was, had it not been for neighbors, helping neighbors, churches being the community draw, that you could get food, that you could get supplies, we would have struggled more greatly than we did.
Sure.
And then you had on top of that all these independent contractors or people who had helicopters.
Yeah.
They paid their own fuel. They flew their own helicopters.
Right.
I got contacted on, it's desperately needed. We need oxygen bottles and insulin up in Avery County.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't just go in and say, I need a couple of bottles of oxygen.
Right. Yeah.
Neither can you do insulin. So trying to coordinate through CBS helped, trying to coordinate with how do we get oxygen. It is very difficult for somebody just to load up a helicopter with oxygen and insulin and deliver it.
Yeah.
But that was completed because you had people who had those air assets that were flying back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And had it not been for those people who really were on the scene within hours of daylight, that really helped folks to get past that initial wave till more help could come.
Sure.
So at the beginning, it was just chaos because, hey, you're already, if you live there, your house is probably gone.
Mm-hmm.
Or now there's no power, there's no internet, and we've become so dependent on the communication part.
Yeah. I think everybody's realizing that, especially in the communication. So I've seen all the ads now for the not Nextel, but what they're sort of like the Nextel walkie-talkie phones that don't need that kind of, you can still communicate. So I think there'll be a lot of people preparing for things that we might not have thought of ahead of time. So, which is maybe that's a good thing, because if it had moved, if it had shifted east or west, it would have changed the whole outcome for everybody.
That's true.
So, so we've seen Life Church. They did a big run up there. I think it was a whole tractor trailer for them.
We did a 26-foot U-Haul that had medical supplies, baby formula, pet food.
Yeah.
People don't really think about pet food.
Yeah.
We did that. My daughter works for a local animal veterinarian office. They supplied us with a lot of stuff for animals, cats, dogs. So water was a big deal. In Spruce Pine, in that area, the city and the county water system is no longer standing nowhere in that county.
I heard that today.
So we're talking that may be a 3 to 4 year process before it comes online.
Right.
So how do those people survive with potable water they can drink or whatever?
Yeah.
The Army is moving in. We have what we call portable water units where they can supply water for a limited number of, like in a combat environment. So all those assets will be used.
Right.
But this truckload we took on Thursday was the initial, how can we help this community? Yeah. And that truck went to Hendersonville and offloaded there. And Hendersonville Church was really instrumental in providing grab bags. you needed baby stuff, they already had it in the bag.
Okay.
So we had about 30 people who went. 15 went to Hendersonville, 15 to Swannanoa. In Swannanoa, we had a portable big gas cooker grill.
Okay.
We were anticipating to feed up to 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Hot dogs, oatmeal cake, something different than what they've been used to. And it was very rewarding to see your church and its people come together and donations from the community. And my pastor has been going almost every day. Michael Goins has been going almost every day.
Yeah.
And he has been really helping to manage where these supplies, if you just brought it in and dumped it, that's not very helpful.
No, right. Exactly.
So we've identified right now gloves, toboggans, light jackets, or jackets, because it's getting down in the 30s.
Well, I was going to say, by the time we air this on Monday, it will have already been, I think, a frost warning up there over the weekend. So, so the gloves, jackets, warm clothing are important. And you know, a lot of times when you do donation runs and stuff, they want new. And of course, you don't want anything that's not that's in bad condition, but I'm assuming slightly used is okay. New would be preferred, but I guess slightly
clothing is not as much needed as those identified. Cold weather jackets, toboggans, gloves.
Right.
Because one, it don't have a size. Two, those people may have some of their house still intact.
Right.
So used clothing is not.
Well, I mean slightly used coats or hats or scarves or whatever.
And again, cleaning supplies, paper towels, water.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Those are the big things we're looking at delivering now.
Yeah. Now Shannon did say that where he was, and I can't remember if it was Burnsville or I don't know. There's so many different areas.
Bakersville, maybe.
Maybe. Anyway, he said they were overloaded with water. They had like pallets and pallets and pallets of water. So doesn't mean it's not needed or it won't be needed later on.
Correct.
So if you have something that they don't need yet, just hold on to it because this is going to be.
Oh, it'll be months.
Yeah, at least months. Yeah. So, all right. So after you got, of course, Life Church was in conjunction with other Churches of God.
Western North Carolina Church.
Right. Exactly. So we participated in that as well. Jason Collins has been doing some stuff up there. Shannon Williams, who came earlier. So a lot of great churches, men, community, people, individuals stepping forward and helping out with this stuff. So,
could I tell you a short story about?
Absolutely.
First day my pastor was there. He took a trailer load of water just to get water to people who needed it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a guy walked up to him. You could tell he had been in the mud and the dirt. And he walked up to him. You could just read on his face that he was very despondent, and this was a big deal emotionally for him. So he asked my pastor. He said, "Could I get some water?" And Pastor Michael says, "Sure, I'll get you some water." And so he went and put his water in the car, and he walked back up to him, and he said, "I just need a hug." And he says, "Okay, what's your name?" He said, "Charles." And he said, "Charles, I'll do more than that. I'll give you a hug, but can I pray for you?" And Charles said, "Yes." And when Charles hugged my pastor, he said it was a bear hug. And this guy just literally broke down and wept because emotionally he needed just a hug, like we do from the Lord at times.
Sure.
We just need a hug.
Yeah.
And so Michael prayed with him that day. That gentleman left. The next day when Pastor Michael went back, Charles is now cleaned up, had a shower, and Charles is now on the other side of the table helping to serve others.
Amen to that.
So what a powerful story. I just need a hug, and Pastor Michael prayed for him.
Yep.
And now this guy was able to serve others the next day. That's a huge thing that had we not been on the ground, may have never happened.
Yeah, well, and that's, ultimately, this is, of course, is geared toward Christians, the podcast that we have, the Greater Purpose podcast, but ultimately, Jesus Christ needs to be glorified in all of this, even in devastation, even in pain, even in fear.
Correct.
And so that's, I think that's what we're seeing. I think we're seeing that He is being glorified, and what's happening is being, if it's being delivered, and that's why we wanted to do this podcast, to make sure people hear
all sides of the story, what's really happening on the ground. So that's an amazing story. There.
So being a North Carolina House of Representatives person, I get some updates.
Getting a few phone calls?
Couple.
Yeah, right.
And a few emails, and a few text messages.
Yeah, right.
But it is rewarding to be that person who has that 30 years of experience with the Guard and the Army of disaster relief.
Yeah.
But hearing some of the things that people either make up or they hear half a story and they add to it, it's very difficult to try to squash those as far as not making them go away, but to answer with the truth.
Yes.
So the House, working with emergency management, working with the Guard and FEMA, set up a clearinghouse. You could click on the link, and the link would take you to, here's what I'm hearing. Is this true?
Oh, okay.
And so they would chase all these rabbits across, such as the helicopter from FEMA who was trying to blow all the tents away.
Yeah, I know.
All of that was actually 2 young pilots from the North Carolina Army National Guard who was in direct communications with someone on the ground that said, land here.
Oh, wow.
And so as they were hovering to land, they realized that their rotor wash was blowing tents away simply because they were that close.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get close enough they wouldn't have to carry water and supplies a long distance. Well, they in turn pulled up and landed at another site.
Okay.
However, the damage was done. Tents were all blown up and stuff like that. Well, someone started this rumor that FEMA was trying to get rid of all the supplies helping people.
Right.
So that's very unfortunate of trying to chase all those rabbits down to make sure that here's the truth. So that was a good thing.
So we'll put that link in the comments so that people can do that. Go and check on. Because I almost got on. I got one. I don't even remember what it was early on, and I shared it, but I said, "Is this true?"
Right.
Because I read it and I'm like, I don't see how this could possibly be true. And sure enough, somebody came back who was very familiar with what was happening and said, no, this is not. And I said, well, that's why I asked, because I was asking. I wasn't posting it to spread it out there or whatever. I mean, I didn't know who I could have. I guess I could have sent it to you to ask you. But so that's good. We'll put a link to that so they can follow up on some of the stories.
The other thing you may have heard about was you had all of these vigilante helicopter pilots flying in and out, and FEMA was trying to shut down everybody's helicopter.
Right. No.
Well, again, the first several hours of this disaster, these folks were at their own expense, buying their own fuel, having the liability, were flying insulin, oxygen tanks, moving people off of areas where there was no way you could get to them.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of back and forth. And then when the military comes in, they have priority routes. They don't like a lot of stuff happening because it presents more dangerous situations.
Sure.
So that changed from right off the bat to where we finally got a lot of Chinooks, a lot of Black Hawk helicopters, and there had to be a traffic flow in order for us to have some reasonable turnaround times of getting people there. So it is total chaos to begin with.
Yeah.
And the people on the ground are kind of in shock that everything they worked for is now 4 miles down the river.
Maybe family members and everything else.
So this week,
so Wednesday, sort of like I mean, just like getting out here and driving to Gastonia or whatever. I mean, you got to follow the traffic pattern.
There's no lights on.
Yeah, right.
Everybody runs it.
But in the air, they have to have a traffic pattern because otherwise you would have
accidents.
Yeah, which would be terrible.
And people suffer. And on Wednesday,
so there was a little transition time then.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, because I did hear one story, and it was they actually interviewed the guy, and he was told that he couldn't go back to get somebody, but he was told by a sheriff,
right,
that he couldn't go back and get somebody when he just rescued somebody from there.
In his 70s or 80s, couple was on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
He had gone to get the wife. His son had flown with him. So he had brought the wife down, left his son on top of the mountain, and so he was going to go back and get her husband. Well, some sheriff said, no, you can't do that. And so threatened to arrest him. And then he said, well, I'm going to get my son. So it is very difficult in these times. Sometimes people have no authority till all of a sudden they have some.
Right.
and they don't know how to balance disaster relief with I'm now in charge.
Yeah. And the need to rescue somebody, which supersedes any local authority you might have or not have. So, and I was concerned somewhat about some of the influx, because I mean, you just have trucks and vehicles and stuff
just
going
show
in.
Up.
And but you got to do some. And I think they did run into some of that, but it sounds like they're getting it pretty well organized, and now they have the distribution areas and all that kind of stuff. So,
and that is the most difficult of saying, we appreciate your volunteerism and bringing all this stuff in. However, we can't just take it everywhere. It has to be where we can get it to those that are needed mostly.
Right. So setting up those. Now, having said that, I will say that I think that there could have been, some things could have been done sooner, more quickly and earlier from a federal standpoint. But that's just my opinion.
But I can assure you, as a state legislator, we're going to have an after-action review where we all sit down at the table and said what went right, what went wrong, what can we improve on. A prime example, just in sheer numbers, the day before Hurricane Milton hit in Florida, there were 9,000 National Guard troops on the ground.
Right.
Just this week, we barely got over 3,000. Was that the correct response? And again, you can't mobilize everybody because of the sheer cost.
Right.
And we're all standing around because we don't have that purpose or mission that we're assigned to.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult to balance the cost. Is there a mission? How do we get people?
Yeah.
And because all these volunteers, all the FEMA, all the responders, they take up hotel rooms.
Right.
And now you got to feed them. Yeah. And you got to sleep them somewhere, and the gasoline or diesel.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to become a victim. Now that you're there,
trapped up there,
how do we manage? And that means one individual I know is staying in Pigeon Forge because there were no hotel rooms.
Right. Gotcha.
And you think, okay, these are people who live there. Why is there not hotel rooms?
Mm-hmm.
When you bring in 3,000 guard, or you bring in, it takes
up
a lot of, and that's it's just crazy to try to work all that out where reasonable people would understand that.
Well, and I think this is not supposed to be political, but we always believe and say that as Christians, we're responsible to be politically involved. And I, especially looking at DeSantis versus our governor here, looking at federal response versus response from people I know right here on the ground, state legislators, local churches, etc. It's very important who we have in leadership, because if we have the wrong people, as I believe, have been the wrong person in the state house right now, and if we get the wrong one in there again, and another disaster happens, the same thing's going to happen that happened this time. You can't have that. You've got to have the leadership at the top, and then the leadership in the next level doing the things right way and planning the right way. But if it starts at the top and the top does nothing, then everybody else has to scurry to do what they did.
So Wednesday of this week, we had the opportunity to come back and work on a initial package for disaster relief.
Okay.
And we took prior experiences from down east on what do we think is needed most, the priority list of, and especially now it's election season. So of those counties impacted, the 25 counties impacted, it's critically important that we don't forget, even during disaster relief, there's an election that by their constitutional right, they have the opportunity to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So North Carolina and staff and that partnered with Louisiana State Board of Elections, Florida State Board of Elections, in understanding they went through the same cycles.
Yeah, exactly right.
Rather than reinventing a wheel, what can we borrow or learn from you guys that would help us to make sure everybody's right to go vote or cast their ballot in this election is done?
Nice.
And so we really worked on everything from school attendance, waiving permit fees, or waiving if your driver's license ran out September 30th. Guess what? They were closed that day due to hurricane. So now when they went back to try to get them, they were going to get a $15 late fee. And we said, no, through no fault of their own.
Yeah,
so we thought A to Z, how do we impact a reasonable citizen's expectation. And so we came up with an initial package, $273 million. Wow. And understanding FEMA, the federal folks, work on a lot of different cycles or how we refund money back to states.
Yeah, it's a different. And
my time in the Guard during Hurricane Hugo, I was told in the last 3 or 4 years that we lost over $9 million in federal reimbursements because we didn't do a good job of documenting people, supplies, equipment. So people were responding, but we didn't document it. And so in Hurricane Floyd, we did a much better job of mission tracking numbers. If you weren't given that, you weren't getting paid. We got that reimbursements we lost down to $1 million. So again, this is another thing that slows down the response time is documenting those federal dollars because it's on a 90-10 match. The state pays 10%, federal government pays 90%.
Oh wow, okay.
So we're wanting to respond as quickly as possible, but documenting what we put resources, supplies, people, and equipment into is a part of the response also in order for your state to get reimbursed for that.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't understand how that works.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That it's, I guess you could call it bureaucratic red tape.
Yeah.
But in order for North Carolina, and if you overpay that amount, let's say you paid $350 million. Well, that may be outside that 10% match. So they will reduce the federal match.
Oh, wow.
Because you overpaid.
Wow.
So it's a fine balance of trying to know what's the right response. And again,
hope you have good people in the accounting office. Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to say bean counters, but since you said it, because that's numbers are not my thing.
And you're talking the gamut of elections, agriculture, crops that may be lost. You're talking retail, National Federation of Independent Business People.
Wow.
All those little bitty shops that are lost. How do you figure that into the emergency response package?
That's huge.
So we'll go back on October 24th, my wife's birthday, and we will do an additional package for relief to now that we've moved down this cycle and getting some funding coming back or out in the field. We'll be able to see what more is needed. A prime example is elections.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell us some more about that. I know people are concerned about that.
Elections is critically important that every vote gets counted and is able to do it. So they had asked for $2 million and to support their efforts to make sure all these precincts across Western North Carolina, people had the ability to vote. So instead of $2 million, we felt like that $5 million in case they had some significant losses where a precinct couldn't get up and running. People who are not there, if they have their ballot, their mail-in ballot, they can drop it off at any voting location across North Carolina and it'll count.
Okay, yeah, because some of them are staying. I know some staying in Concord.
If they're from that western area or that area that's been impacted, even if they have no ID, some ID, they're going to do a provisional ballot. They will get to vote. And that's across North Carolina. There's some folks who are staying way down east because that's where their family is.
Yeah.
So my question to the speaker staff was, okay, let's make sure, how do we make sure their vote's going to be eligible with them not there?
So Joe from Burnsville is in living in the Outer Banks and still will
he'll be able to use a provisional ballot that will be able to be tabulated with his district back home.
Okay, cool. Well, that's good. And then so as far as everything being secure and they're all, obviously they're going to get to vote, but everything being secure and all that, there's no concerns with any of that as far as you can say? Or?
Well, I can tell you that the state elections board is made up of whoever the governor is in power, Democrat or Republican. Those have the 3 primary members.
Right.
So the other 2 members are Republican members. The board voted unanimously that this was the right steps in partnering with Louisiana and Florida, that this would allow people to cast their vote and know their vote would be counted and it wouldn't disappear.
Okay.
So I can tell you we will continue as a legislative body to micromanage that in a support arena to say that's why we added $3 million.
Right.
We didn't want to hear, well, you only gave us 2 and we needed more.
Right.
So we felt like it was critically important for this election cycle to address those needs in Western counties. So we added $3 million to it.
Yeah.
And you're just all over the road stuff.
Sure.
People don't think about.
All right. Yeah. So, and of course, the representatives in those areas will be monitoring all that.
Yes.
To make sure that everything's handled properly.
There's accountability back up the chain of command.
Right. Well, that's good because I think people are, have been talking about that, of course, and I think they need to be confident that the election is going to be is going to be legit. Let's just put it that way. So, and then another thing you spoke about when we first sat down before we started to record was reestablishing the office up there in for the licensing and
building permits, stuff like that.
And that was in where?
Buncombe County.
Okay, Buncombe County. Right.
So my church has been partnering with the Swananoa Church of God, and they've gutted out their basement part where all the flooding was and the mold issues. And now today I've been on the phone with the representatives from that county and those districts of making sure the building permit office is open. We have licensed contractors on the ground. We have the supplies.
Right.
We want to make sure we do it correctly under the law, abide by the law. So those are the type of things
I never would have.
You don't even think about.
Right, exactly.
I know down east, some of my colleagues told me we're so used to these things that when something happens, those landfills, the garbage dump, and all, they never close anymore.
Oh, wow.
Well, out west we don't have that, and all the landfills were closing at 5:00.
Yeah.
We're like, hang on,
you got all this stuff.
Hang on, you got to be open 24/7.
That's going to be I bet that's a continuous influx.
Oh yeah,
just debris and everything. Yeah.
Such as instead of having to grind all these trees and stuff up, the permitting process had to change so they could burn a lot of it.
Yeah.
So you got environmental concerns.
Right.
It's enormous the things you had to balance in this initial package.
Well, and again, that's why we wanted to have you in here, because I knew there were some things that people like me would not even have thought of that are going on behind the scenes to help take care of what's going on up there and help get them through this. So along with praying, obviously we're all praying. We're all trying to donate supplies where we can. We've got locations. We're going to put some of those links up there. Anything else we want to wrap up with that you think that we should know about, or something in the future, or anything like that?
You covered the most important part was prayer for the folks who are victims, prayer for the folks who are delivering supplies and relief, and line workers who's done amazing jobs of restoring. Especially, it's not like dangerous flat lands. It's over the mountain, over the river, and through the woods. They're going. That's important.
Some of those lines took literally years to put in place, and now they're having to.
And helicopters now are the ones bringing them in to set them. And you're talking about flying over the mountain with a telephone pole. That's pretty awesome to watch that happen. I think now in the next few weeks and months, you have to think about some of this stuff will not be cured by the end of October.
Right.
It'll still be makeshift. How do I get through this?
Yeah.
And we have to think about down the road. We have Thanksgiving coming. We have Christmas coming. These are very emotional family times that will be different. One family I know lost 11 members of their family. This will become an emotional time. And all of us that are not directly impacted, we kind of seem to the worst is over. We kind of go back to our regular cycle. Right. These people will continue to need supplies, support. Their life won't get back to normal for months, if not years.
Yeah.
So that is the thing we need to think about down the road. Will there still be needs for supplies, cleaning supplies, paper towels, toilet paper, those everyday things we take for granted?
Yeah.
And then how do we make sure they get to where we are supposed to be, those people who really need it?
Yeah.
Because this is a time, let's face it, there are some shenanigans that people do in emergencies where they have learned they can rake in FEMA dollars, state dollars, or take advantage of people whose home is still intact maybe, but the folks are gone. So, I mean, it's chaos. We're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. So, so if you're watching this, or if you're listening or watching right now, then pause for just a second, because I want you to grab a pen and a piece of paper. Nobody has pen and paper anymore, but you need to write some things down. First of all, write down Donnie Loftis and go to his Facebook page. Keep up with his social media. He'll be sharing ongoing things. John Torbett is another one that you should be following. He is sharing amazing information, including debunking something that was said the other day, and then supporting something that people were trying to say wasn't happening, and he was confirming that it was in fact happening. We need to know that too. We need to know the truth, both sides of the truth. Well, not both sides. The only side is the truth. We don't need to know the falsehoods. But also, Life Church, that's Michael Goins. Jason Collins is another name you need to write down. Shannon Williams is another name you need to write down. It's out there. We can be helping, so continue to help. Don't forget about the people up there. Don't forget about the people that are working, the volunteers that are going to be going up there for months and months and months. And don't forget about our legislature, who is working hard to try to get the funding and the needs up to the people that are up there in this devastating time. So, Donnie, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your work in Raleigh and all over this side of North Carolina. We appreciate you, and God bless you.
I'll be in Chimney Rock one day next week.
Okay.
So Chimney Rock, as most people know, has kind of disappeared on one side. Right. So it's coming back. Finally, they got electricity to the volunteer fire department, which is the community gathering place. Right. All the way through the mountains, those fire departments have their generators. Mm-hmm. So that's where the community comes now.
Yeah.
So that'll be a pivotal point of getting stuff started again.
Well, Chimney Rock, I mean, when I was a kid living in Illinois, we came through to go to Florida on vacations. And Tweetsie Railroad, Chimney Rock, all those places were areas that I remember. Those are parts of my childhood. So the thousands and thousands of people who remember that, it'll be great to see them at least start getting back in the right direction. So, check out go to his Facebook page. He'll do some updates when he gets up there to Chimney Rock and the legislative stuff, all that legislative stuff and all that good stuff. I appreciate it, Donnie.
Absolutely.
Thanks. God bless you. Listen, serve your greater purpose. This is what it's about right here. We're pulling together. North Carolina strong, right? Western North Carolina strong, right? Okay. Absolutely. God bless you. Thank you for being here.